Hey guys. Okay, so I normally like to take a more jovial or light-hearted approach to the content within our weekly videos. Unfortunately, try as I may, this week I have failed to come up with a way to kind of sugarcoat the topic that I won't talk about, or come up with a more fun way of presenting it. The reality is, and I will put this out there from the start, this week's video is going to be rather doom and gloom. So what are we going to talk about? Well, quite simply, we're going to talk about the NCC changes. So in case you've been hiding under a rock recently, later this year, more specifically in September, some changes are due to drop, which is going to affect the entire construction industry. I heard one person say that these changes are going to equate to the loss of one entire room within every major renovation or new build. So when I say the loss of an entire room, I'm talking about in terms of floor area, so in terms of accommodating the additional width requirements or separation requirements, or in terms of budgeting, so in terms of cost blowouts, excess material costs, all that sort of stuff, leading to budget blowouts, which lead to cutbacks, which lead to reduced floor area. You get the idea. From my perspective though, I think possibly 95% of the jobs that are in the works out there at the moment, so the jobs that are currently being designed, will not comply come September. They will be bin material. I know, there's the doom and gloom, right? So let's talk about this. What do you need to do? How do you need to prepare for this? Well, first and foremost, if you've got some jobs in the works that are going to sort of come to fruition around that September time period, get your skates on, get those plans moving, get the building approvals done so you can lock in the current rules and regulations. That obviously is the dream outcome. Next outcome or next option here is to prepare your clients, and I am obviously talking more to the designers here and industry professionals, but prepare your clients for change. Tell them that there are going to be design changes which require rework, potentially planning, modification, applications, all of that sort of stuff. So mentally get ready for that stuff. Final option, last option here, is basically to hit pause on the design work. So wait until you have your head around what the requirement's going to be and therefore get it right from the start. So you guys are obviously going to sit there now and go, what are these changes like? Can they really be that big? Obviously, this is not my area of expertise. I'm not a building certifier and I'm not going to pretend for 1 second that I've sat down and read the legislation. What I want to share with you today is a summary, a real high-level summary of what I've picked up through talking to my certification contacts and through going through industry bodies like HAA, BDQ, all of that sort of stuff. Given it isn't my area of expertise, I have actually created a cheat sheet for myself. I've written some notes because I want to make sure I don't actually miss anything as I'm talking. So I will keep referring to it. It won't be like a normal video where I just talk off the back of my hand. I will need to refer to my cheat sheet. So first and foremost, I think there's probably 5 key areas that are changing, or 5 aspects that are changing in my personal opinion. First and foremost, documentation. So under the current scheme, or current book I should say, NCC book, you have one specific type of numbering system, let's call it, and things are found in very specific locations. Under the new version of this document, totally different ball game, totally different numbering system, layout, way things are positioned, all of that sort of stuff. You're probably sitting there going, why? Like, why mess with something that works? Well, the high-level theory or thought process here is, number one, we need to make it more consistent and user-friendly for new people picking up the book, so we want to improve it for future generations. But more importantly, we want to account for machine learning or AI capabilities. So we want to make sure that computers can read our documents and utilize them in better ways going forward. So how does this actually impact you? Well, number one, when you want to go and reference a particular rule or standard within the book, it's not going to be where you thought it used to be. It's not going to be defined or numbered the way it used to be. So you're going to need to allow time to actually get your head around how these new rules and requirements work. You're then going to have to update all your standard documents, templates, all of the drawings, all of that sort of stuff, so that they reference the correct diagram or the correct sections within the NCC document. I probably don't need to say it, but I'll say it. Maybe end of last year, I did a video where we talked about the fires that occurred down in Melbourne. In super simple terms, the findings that came out of that court case was that every single person along the chain of command was responsible for the specifications. So as designers in particular, again, I'm speaking particularly to designers here, as designers, you are responsible for making sure that your drawings reference the correct locations or standards and rules and requirements. So be ready for that. Now, number 2, accessibility. So there is a lot of hoo-ha at the moment about them increasing or creating these step-free continuous pathways. Got to get that out. Step-free continuous pathways from the curb to the front of like the front door, etc., etc. I think in reality though, Brisbane, let's be honest, Brisbane's not a flat city. It's built on hills. And I think they're going to have to include a heap of exemptions that end up ruling out 95% of the properties out there. So yes, the ramp requirements sound dramatic, but in reality, I don't think they're going to apply in most instances. If you are doing new project build sort of homes out in more suburban areas where they're flatter sort of blocks, definitely this stuff's going to apply. So they need to be accounted for. But then also the flow-on impacts, and again, it's a really minor sort of impact here, but I'm starting to think with those project homes, town planners, notorious for this, us town planners, we hate dominant big garages. We like teeny tiny garages. We like the house to be the most dominant, beautiful thing and not the ugly parking structure. But one of the alternate solutions they've proposed is if you can't get that ramp access to work to the front entrance, you've got to go through the garage. Obviously, if you want to accommodate that access through the garage, you've got to widen the garage. So my mind, even though it's not going to be a big issue, my mind is starting to think, okay, how is this going to impact on the planning rules and requirements, especially on narrow sites? I mean, with subdivisions at the moment, we're doing 6 metre wide blocks in some instances. That's going to have a few flow-on impacts that we need to consider. But as at the moment, I'm pushing that kind of aside because I'm like, yeah, it's not going to impact most people. What is going to impact most people is the following. So you need to make sure you've got a minimum 820 opening. So I've been told I think you need a standard door, which is 870 wide. Don't quote me on that, but it's a bit bigger than normal. Once you get inside the property, you've got to have 1 metre wide access ways. Then you've got to have a toilet on the ground level, which, hey, if you're doing a new build or a major renovation, not a big deal. Most people want a toilet downstairs. But if you're doing a smaller renovation, trying to work around an existing house, maybe it won't work, or a smaller house may not work. You've got to make sure that there is at least 1.2 metres clearance between the toilet and the open door. So you can't just basically walk into the bathroom, suck your gut in, walk around, close the door, sit down on the toilet. You've got to have that extra space within the toilet. I'm talking like a powder room setup. So that's going to increase the amount of space that needs to be dedicated to these powder rooms. If your toilet is sitting within the bathroom, that toilet has to be up against the corner. So you can't have the standard sort of setup where you have like a basin, toilet, then shower. Your toilet now needs to be in the corner. Your walls need to be braced with some extra sort of material so that you can put grab rails there, hence the toilet being up against the wall, so you can grab onto the toilet grab rail and pull yourself up. What else have we got? You've got to have at least one hobless and stepless shower within the property. So if you're in, and I can't really imagine this being a scenario, but let's say for argument's sake, you only have one shower in the property, you've got to make sure that that doesn't have any sort of steps into it, which means you then can't accommodate a bathtub, which most families want to have the kids in the bathtub. To be honest though, that I actually jumped for joy when I read. Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, those of you that don't know, I had an ACL reconstruction about 4 weeks ago now. And I'm going to tell you right here, right now, those first 2 weeks, my leg was like a puffer fish. It was so inflamed. Turned out I had a reaction to some of the compression bandages, which made it worse. But long story short, I had one big, stiff leg that could not move. Trying to get in and out of that shower, that was hard. Like, I'd waddle up to the shower and it'd take a lot of mental coaxing to get myself to try and bend the leg and get it up that teeny tiny step, but over that teeny tiny step. And then worse, you had to sit there and go, okay, I can do this. I can put all this pressure on this puffer fish long enough to get my other good leg up and over the hump. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. There were a couple of days where I went, yeah, can't be bothered. I'm not showering today. Gross, I know, it happened. So yeah, I can understand where they're coming from with this requirement. But yeah, we've got to have extra for reinforcing the walls. Oh, removable shower screen. So basically for safety reasons, you've got to be able to get the screen out. I think that's it. Let me check my list. 820 toilet reinforced, hobs, removal screen. Oh, I got it all. Okay, so let's just quickly touch on why they want that. Obviously, we've got to create more inclusive designs for people who have permanent disabilities. We can't be sitting there saying, hey, you guys need to stick with this small, crappy little house in the outback suburbs. We've got to give more people more variety of housing to choose from. It'd be nice to accommodate people like me with temporary disabilities, but more importantly, we've got an aging population. And my dad was the best example of this the other day. He's just moved into a new place. Now, he's not old, but he's starting to get some signs of arthritis. He actually came to me and it totally caught me off guard. He goes, this house, there must have been an old person living in it before me because there's grab rails everywhere. Oh, it makes it so much easier when I'm having a bad day and I can't bend properly. And I was like, oh, I hadn't actually thought it through. So it's not for really, really old people necessarily. It's everyone from 50 onwards whose ability starts to, as I've found with my ACL reconstruction, I'm not over 50 by the way, but as I've started to realize as you get older, your body starts to shut down on you a little. It doesn't quite perform the way you thought it would. You don't bounce back quite as much as you thought. So yeah, it's not just for the 90-year-olds out there. It's for the people a lot younger who are starting to show their age a little bit. It helps get them around the house in situations where they're losing their mobility. So that I think covers off the accessibility one. Now we're going to talk about energy. Two aspects to this. Firstly, in super simple terms, we're going from 6-star rating to 7-star rating. Now, I did hear one person say, and this may have been over dramatized, people who are in this field, you feel free to jump in and add your 2 cents here. But this person basically said that our existing houses, our existing fabric is already at capacity. We've molded it or messed with it as much as we possibly can in terms of inserting insulation, putting, what are they called? Fans. Mental blank for a second there. Putting fans in outdoor areas, all of that sort of stuff. We can't mold the houses anymore to get that extra star rating. What it's going to come down to is the design of the houses and the design of the blocks in the first instance. So an example, if you have a block which has an amazing view and you want to have big glass windows to capture that view, understandably, yeah, you might find going forward you can't have those big glass windows because it's just going to not allow you, it's going to prevent you, if I get my words out, prevent you from complying with that star rating requirement. But going back one step further, and this is where my ears sort of perked up and I went, oh, this is going to cause me some problems, is the lot orientation. So someone rightfully said developers are potentially going to have to reduce their yield that they're getting out of subdivisions in order to get the blocks facing in the right direction so that when they build the houses down the track, they can comply with the star rating requirement. I sat there and went, oh bugger, I've got a couple of big subdivision jobs in at the moment. Yeah, I think I need to contact those clients and go, guys, we need to start looking at this stuff because your subdivisions they're not going to hit the market until after these NCC changes drop. So we kind of want to make sure you don't have a dud product at the end. It's an interesting conversation I'm going to be having later today with some of them. But yeah, that's the first change. And the second change when it comes to the energy efficiency stuff is what's called this whole of house approach. So the energy efficiency requirements are now going to apply to the fixed, what's it called? Fittings, or let me check my notes. Oh, I didn't even write it down. Bugger. Anyway, fixed things. Things like lighting, appliances. There we go. I got there in the end. So things like lighting, pool pumps, heating equipment, aircon equipment, all of that sort of stuff. So if you think this through, a lot of the products which are currently on the market may not stack up against these current or these new incoming requirements. So we may have to bin all of those products. Everyone's going to be fighting for these new products, which are very scarce, not on the market. We already know this product resource reductions, what's the word I'm going for here? Shortages. There's shortages out there at the moment. This is just going to add to that. Then you got the additional problem of contractors and builders and so forth trying to get their head around how to use these less common or less available products going forward. There is going to be that transition period where people fumble around and try to work out how to use these things, which is going to add to cost, time, all of that sort of stuff. Okay, why are we doing this? It's pretty obvious, climate change. We've got to start doing our bit to reduce climate change. Is that everything? Oh no, there's a few other things. You've got to have, I think I wrote that under the wrong point. Condensation. Yeah, I did. I've mixed up my points here. Next point, condensation and water management. So basically, as a result of the increased star rating, our buildings becoming more airtight, all of that sort of stuff, we're starting to have some more condensation problems that are occurring within houses. So another part to this change here, or these changes within the NCC, they're going to start requiring what's called breathable sarking. Basically, we've got to start using different materials to wrap the houses in for waterproofing. We've got to create ducting. So at the moment, if you have mechanical ventilation, it doesn't necessarily, and don't quote me on this is just what I've heard, doesn't necessarily need to be piped to the outside. I'm using basic terminology here. Obviously, most people are going to sit there and go, well, why wouldn't you want to pipe it to the outside? But imagine this sort of scenario. You've got a ground level unit. You've got other units on both sides. Your only entry and exit point is front or back. What do? Suddenly you're going to have to pipe that flow to the front or to the back. The only way you can pipe that flow is through walls or ceilings. So you're going to have to widen the walls or the ceiling spaces to be able to accommodate that additional pipe work or the additional ducting, which then naturally is going to reduce the internal spaces. So there's going to be all these flow-on impacts that we need to consider. Final thing is you need to have what's called air gaps. I've got the right term there. Air gaps between the roof insulation, the roof structure, which is going to basically create flow and design implications in terms of roof forms and all of that sort of thing. So what I'm getting at again here is just there's a lot of flow-on changes that need to be considered. Last point, just a bucket load of general material and specification changes. So one example is they want to move to low lead pipework. I heard someone say there is 75, and it does sound a bit dramatic, so I do doubt this figure, but I heard someone say 75 million products out there in terms of plumbing products are going to be affected by this change. And again, we go back to what I was talking about there. If you can't use the existing products, everyone's going to be fighting over the new products, and there's going to be that transition period where everyone starts to fumble around and learn how to use things. And then the other thing was extra fixings and that sort of stuff for windows. Basically, it's just going to change the type of products we're using and the way that we build with them within the houses. So I think that covers all of my summary, high-level summary of changes. Yeah, it'll do. You get the idea. Will it go ahead? There's two trains of thought here. Some people are sitting there going, guys, we've gone through COVID. We've gone through floods. We have builder shortages. I mean, there's builders that are going under. Well, the most recent one was Condev, wasn't it? And then ProBuild before that. Like, we've got builders going under. We've got everyone stretched in terms of resources, materials, builders. You cannot add to this pressure cooker situation. You cannot add more change into this mix. You have to hit pause on this legislation. You cannot roll it out at September this year. The other train of thought is, these changes have been in the works for like 10 years. All the ministers have signed off on it. Like, there ain't no stopping this freight train. It is steaming ahead here. You need to get ready for it. So whether it goes ahead or doesn't go ahead, we won't know. They're saying in May, I think it is, we're supposed to see the accessibility component drop. So in terms of the final version of the document will fall. It won't come into effect until September, but the final version will come out for us all to learn from and see. The energy efficiency and the condensation ones, the other things, that'll come probably a bit later. But the moral of the story, or the point I want to get across in today's video, is do not bury your head in the sand. If these changes come into effect and they have the flow and impacts that we're sort of anticipating, it is going to totally change the way you do business, the way you operate. It's going to be a bit complex, a bit hard, let's just say. So what you need to do is start mentally preparing yourself for that change at the end of this year. I mean, if it doesn't happen, if CAN gets kicked down the road, great, you've got a bit more time. But now you need to start mentally preparing for the fact that you are going to have those hiccups down the track, and start educating yourself or informing yourself about what those changes are going to be. All of the peak bodies out there are regularly doing presentations on this stuff. Like I know BDQ, Building Design Queensland, they've got a presentation next Thursday, I think it is. Don't quote me on that. But if you're a member of BDQ, obviously check that presentation out. HIA is regularly doing presentations. Everyone out there is doing presentations. So in particular, from May onwards, make sure you're watching those presentations, keeping yourself up to date so you have time to prepare for these changes. Okay, I think that covers everything. That was a long video. As I always say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got three. Number one, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number two, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number three, what was my number three? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.